So I tend to talk about a lot of really weird movies, and that's not gonna change today. Quick warning, there are a lot of flashing lights in the movie, and I used clips, so there's probably gonna be some flashing lights in those clips. Just a heads up. Into the Void is a really strange and incredibly fascinating film by Gaspar Noe. I always feel weird talking about some of his movies, mostly because he's just a really weird dude. Not in a bad way, but he's definitely weird. Most of his movies are, hold on, probably a little bit better. Sorry. Most of his movies are really weird and uncomfortable and incredibly disturbing. Irreversible is the one that'll take that trophy. But one thing you can definitely say about him is he likes to experiment. And he likes to mess around with different concepts, and also his cinematography and editing. From the opening POV to the floating camera, Noé makes sure that you know you're in for a completely different type of movie. Nothing you've ever really seen before. Neon colors capture your attention and keep you invested. It makes it impossible to look away. It's a very beautiful looking film with some incredibly trippy images. The story follows Oscar as his friend Victor gives him a call and asks him to meet him at this bar called The Void, where he's been lured into a trap by the police. He hides away in a bathroom and attempts to flush his drugs down the toilet, and before he's able to talk himself out of it, he gets shot. As he dies in a first-person perspective, hearing his heartbeat kind of slow down, everything else get muffled around him. The film then moves on to his soul, essentially. Follows it as it goes around and it observes how his death affects his friends and his sister, who has been like someone he's incredibly close with since the death of their parents. The film does a really good job exploring that idea of death in first person. There was something flying past me. I have no idea what it was playing the entire time. Noé loosely bases it around the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which he has Oscar read before he goes out for the night, and before he does some DMT in the first person, which is really cool. But he brings a lot of those concepts of the Book of the Dead into the film in a very loose way, like I said, but it just helps kind of have this trippiness to it. Someone who kind of gets a little bit of a grasp of the book before they die, and it's kind of how they imagine their death and everything that follows after. It could also be what really happens. Noé doesn't really like to talk about it very much, but it makes it even more trippy. His kind of gliding over the city as a disembodied soul is really interesting. Seeing his last moments leading up to his death, and then just everything afterwards. It's all just a really cool way without fully trying to replicate the book and its ideas. You're putting your own little spin on it. The music really complements the whole thing. I'm gonna butcher his name. Thomas Bangalter, the one half of Daft Punk. Really weird that he's composed Tron Legacy and then technically Irreversible, this, and a couple songs in Climax. But it's a really fantastic film from a technical perspective. From the cinematography to the editing, the music, whoa. Just like my really shitty video on Challengers. Don't watch that one. It keeps getting views. Don't watch it. It's bad. I half-assed that so bad. The exploration of past and present kind of intercutting is also really cool. Gives us a really interesting insight into Oscar and Linda's relationship, along with how everything kind of ends up leading up to his death at the beginning. Seeing how the present turns out is really cool. Seeing the aftermath of his death. God, I'm having trouble. And kind of how each person handles life without Oscar there. From Victor having to kind of deal with the oh my god. Having to deal with the repercussions of his actions. How Linda kind of breaks down without her brother being there. And how Oscar kind of has to step in to keep her on track, essentially, while also having other motives the entire time. It's all very interesting. At least to me it is. I like it. I mean, clearly I'm talking about it. I'm gonna keep putting the iPad up here because I'm mesmerized by movement. I wanted to say that I don't think Noé is being very pretentious with the film. I think it's a little self-indulgent, and it's definitely long. I mean, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes of following someone's dead soul wandering around. I really think it's the execution of the film being less of like a, hey look, this is really fucking deep. Look at it, he's dead, ooh. And more of just an exercise in filmmaking, and it's a project he's been wanting to work on for years, and he wasn't able to really get to it until the release of Irreversible, which strangely was a financial success. Don't know why people would go to the theater for that. Happy they did, because it really resulted in this, but that's also a lot of traumatized people in theaters. I don't want to watch that movie again. I tried, I couldn't. Good movie, I think. Really, horrifying, to say the least. I don't think it's trying to say anything in particular about death, and I don't think the camera movements or editing are very, like, overly flashy. I think it's just a story that needs to be told in a very particular way, and in the way I wanted to give that a shot. And I think this is the only way to really make this particular movie. Do I think it's a perfect film? No. There's clearly, like, problems with it, but it's left me in a really but it's left me in a really kind of strange state. Like I've said it before with various things, but it kind of like shows me like what movies can be. Like, especially when you have a concept that you've been wanting to make for so long, and it's such a weird vision, and you're finally able to do that with the budget. It all just kind of comes together. In the end, Enter the Void is a visually stunning look into a particular belief of the afterlife. It's impressive, it's captivating, it's unlike anything you'll ever watch. No matter what your opinion ends up being, I hope you will be able to agree with me that it is a very creative movie, a very different movie, that was made with a lot of care by someone who really wanted to make it, and to make it as unique as possible. It is a unique movie. Every one of his movies are completely different than the other. No, I think it's a great movie. Definitely at least worth a shot. You're not going to see that by the time this comes out. This is coming out in a couple days. Anyway, bye. Yeah, that's how I'm ending it.